Yeah, we gotta rise up, yo. Go for broke, give everything, better yet give your all. They don't wanna see you win, nevertheless show evolve. Wanna see my demise, you can be in for a surprise. Cause the sun ain't about to set, now it's about to rise. Come hell or high water, we gotta rise up. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Stage is Mine podcast. I'm your host, Terrance Hill. This week, it is my privilege and honor to bring to the program attorney Sebrina Martin. Ms. Martin, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you could take time out to be on the program. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an attorney, and most people know me because I'm an advocate for children and families, and that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. Tell me about your time as a family law attorney and your what was it about the process that made you want to become an advocate for children as well?
Well, I knew first when I went into law school, I had no doubt when I went in that I was going to advocate and be a defender of children's rights. And so I knew all along that that's what I was going to do. And I came from a broken home myself, so I had that passion going in, and I knew that I wanted to put children first. And unfortunately, there are things that and families like drugs and violence and different things that families, put before children. And it's very unfortunate, but I see that every day, and those take a back seat to children. And I have just fought for children in the courtroom. I fought for children outside the courtroom, and I want to continue to do that because, these children are our future, and we've got to continue to make a better life for them and be passionate about that. And so it's always something from before law school. I was a foster parent for 10 years, and that kind of just bore in and developed that passion for me. And I knew that I had to make a difference. And in order to do that, I had to go to law school to do that.
Yeah. How many years have you been practicing law?
I've been out for close to 10 years now. And that's all I've done is family and children. So I've maintained that and built my practice on helping children and families. And so it's just a passion for me, and it's something that I love. And everyone always says, "Oh, don't you get tired of that? Is that something that you take home?" Yeah, I take it home because I love it. It's something that if you don't love it, you shouldn't do it. And you can't do a good job at something if you don't really love it and you're not passionate about it.
Right.
And it's just part of me, and it's something that I believe that I should do, that I'm here and I was just meant to do this. God's led me down this path, and I didn't know that he was leading me down this path, but he has. And everything that he's done, has led me up to this.
Right. When did you develop a passion for law? When did you kind of get that tug that, hey, this is something that I want to do?
Well, as I said, I came from a bad situation, and abusing children and being victims. It was illegal then. It's illegal now. And as a foster parent for 10 years, I got to see the things that went on in the system. I got to see some of the good things, and I got to see some of the bad things, and I got to see where the breakdowns were. But just as a foster parent, your hands are tied. I had no legal training. I had nothing where I could actually get in and make more of a difference. Yeah, I was helping the children, but I wanted to do more. And growing up in a bad situation and then helping these children, I knew that in order for me to do more, I had to go to law school. And
Mhm.
instead of sitting there and saying, here's a problem, there's a problem, and complaining about it, I wanted to be part of that solution. So I decided to go to law school and become part of the solution to make a difference. And so that's when my daughter, I adopted her. She was my last foster child. When I adopted her, I quit fostering and went to law school.
Mm.
And since then, I continue to do my volunteer work and my passion still for
Right.
children, but I focused, more in my career wise as in a legal aspect by going to law school, but never wavered on making sure the community that I lived in and that the community that I was involved in it and that I stayed in touch with it and all the children that, that there is always a need there and that I was able to, give back.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your time as a adopted parent. That's definitely something that's a calling, and what tugged on your heart to go down that road.
Like you said, I just felt like it was a calling. I prayed about it. I felt like, God had led me there to do that. And I prayed and, I felt that I was, that's where my heart had led me and that the Lord had led me. And so that I did that. And like I said, I didn't realize He was leading me down this road,
Mm.
but, I did that and I poured my heart into it. I loved each and every one of those kids. Some went back to their parents, and I loved their parents too, whether they were able to go back to their parents or they weren't, or if they
Right.
were able to go to a family member. It was about loving their parents too, to help their parents heal because their parents, there was heartache and there was a lot of pain there,
Mm.
whether it was from drugs or, domestic violence or whatever that situation was, that those parents needed healing as well.
Right.
And I think, a lot of people don't realize that these parents, hard it is, and that, you know, the things that they go through, the drugs and things like that, that they are just so consuming, and that we have to have a forgiving heart. Not that
Mm.
these kids can't, they deserve stability and consistency, and they may not be able to go back to those parents. And that's sad, but those parents need to be able to, even if they can't reunite with their children, they need to be able to heal and so that they can be productive members of society as well.
Right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit also, what are some of the things that lead to a child ending up in foster home? And then over your years of being involved, how many, have you seen parents be able to kind of straighten out their lives? And maybe if there was addiction, or if there was the wife was in like a domestic, circumstance, she was able to get out of that and, like reunite with her children.
Sure, sure. I've seen both. Sometimes that they're not able to get back together. The addiction, sometimes proves to be too much.
Mhm.
And, sometimes that's really sad. And sometimes they're able to recognize that and they want their children to be able to have that stable environment, and they know that they just can't provide that. And then I've seen some amazing, wonderful stories where those parents are work really hard. Not that the other ones didn't work really hard, but they just weren't in that place,
Mhm.
and they weren't ready for recovery, but they were able to recover and they were able to get back on their feet. And I will say that a lot of people don't realize this, but no matter what those parents have done to those children are always going to love their parents.
Mhm.
I always seen that, the parents may have abused the children, and they think, well, those kids, why would they want to go back to them? But they always love their
Mhm.
parents. And so that's hard for a lot of people to understand, but we have to be really understanding to know that, a lot of times that's all those kids ever known.
Mhm.
And that's the only kind of love or acceptance they have ever known. And so they want to go back to that, or they're used to that. So uh,
Right.
their kind of love is not what we would expect. And so um, it's different for them. And
Mhm.
they have a different kind of reality than what a normal child would grow up in. Not that they're not normal, but that
Mhm.
their environment is, they just didn't grow up in a healthy, loving, nurturing environment. And that's my goal, is to try and help all these kids have a stable environment, to grow up in healthy, nurturing, loving environments. And if we can um, get that education out there and provide resources so that we can stop some of this cycle and help these parents that are struggling,
Right.
that we can stop some of this so that these kids can grow up in a healthy, nurturing environment.
Yeah. It almost seems like you're almost like answering my next question, but what do you enjoy most about being a attorney?
Well, I, I do get to do work with kids, and
Mhm.
of course, I love that. As a certified child advocate or a guardian ad litem, I love working with kids. But when a husband or a wife come in and they want come in and they can't speak to each other, and he doesn't care about her, whether she lives or dies, as long as he gets everything, and she doesn't care as long, they're just at complete odds. They
Mhm.
just are at each other's throats. But when I can come and kind of get to them and say, look, you guys have kids, and at the end of the day, you know, you're hurting your kids doing this. And when I can get to them
Mhm.
and kind of shake them, or make them realize that you have a limited amount of time with these kids, and you may not like your spouse anymore, but you two still have kids to raise, and you need to put those differences aside just enough for these kids, because you've got these kids and they are wonderful and amazing, and you made them together. And so the two of you were able to do something pretty spectacular at one point in time. And so if you can remember that and just get to a point where you can focus on these kids for a minute, and we can come to an agreement about the kids, that all this other stuff is just little stuff. It can all be replaced, but these kids can't.
Right.
And if I can get them to agree on that, then all the other little stuff just kind of falls into place. And then we can come to an agreement, and we can usually settle everything. We don't even need to go to court. We can settle it all out of court if we can come to terms on that. And then
Mhm.
I feel like I won, because I've settled, and the kids are going to win in the end, because mom and dad aren't going to go around talking bad about each other, at least not in front of the kids. That's my
Mhm.
goal. Not in front of the kids. You may say to your sister or to your brother something in private, and I don't care about that, but let's not just put the kids in the middle.
Right. Yeah. So what's a typical month like for you as an attorney? Like your day to day. I mean, what are you normally doing?
Well, it just depends. The court schedule's all different. So whatever the judge sets the calendar, that kind of varies. But
Mm.
I do mediations, and sometimes it's juvenile court. Sometimes it's the domestic relations, which is the divorce and custody. So um, it kind of varies, then I have appointments, to talk to clients in the office. So it varies.
Right. Okay. Our platform, we go beyond the Montgomery area because a lot of people, watch it in different parts of the country and even overseas. But tell the audience is watching about your time as a member of the Alabama Chamber of Commerce and also the Downtown Business Association of Montgomery, Alabama.
Well, I think those associations and the involvement are critical, and that they're so important because they bring businesses into the river region. And anytime that we can bring businesses in, that's work. And when we have working households, that decreases poverty. And as long as we can keep poverty out, because when there's poverty, then we know that causes all kinds of a triple effect, of quadruple effect, if you want, of all kinds of other problems. There's violence, people turn to the street, there's domestic abuse, there's child abuse, there's child neglect. Poverty causes all kinds of issues. So we can bring jobs in, bring good paying jobs, keep people working, we can keep poverty out. We can kind of combat all these other problems. So anytime that I can be involved in that, and I can keep involvement in that to keep people working and keep good paying jobs.
Yeah. What was your time like in law school, and what are some nuggets that you learned in college that's helping you to this day?
Well, I went to Faulkner Law School, and so when I was there, I was able to become plugged in to all of the public interest and all the volunteer networks and all the things that today that I'm still involved in. And so I was able to get out in the community, do volunteer work. I was able to help with foster children on the board with DHR. So I was there, and then I was down as a volunteer attorney, or was an attorney yet in law school, but I did the legal services, and I was down at the clinic volunteering. I did the elder law clinic and the domestic violence, anything that I could do that the law school was associated with helped me learn more about giving back to the community. And then I just maintained all that.
Right.
Sunshine Center, all those things.
Yeah, that's awesome. What have you seen as a advocate for victims of domestic violence in your time as an active volunteer with Women of Refined Gold and the Domestic Violence Task Force?
Well, I've learned that education is key. There's a lot of lack of real education on what is domestic violence, how does it play a role, how is it involved, what resources are out there, and how can they get help. A lot of people don't realize things that are even signs or dangers that they should be aware of. My daughter, who's 13 years old, just lost a friend of hers, that a classmate this year, and it really hit the school hard, and it turned out that it was another boy who they were in sort of relationship. And my daughter asked me a lot of questions, and she just didn't understand. And so we had this domestic violence conversation about how, if a boy keeps pressuring you and wanting
Mhm.
to do something, or, keeps constantly contacting you. And so I had to explain, because even our schools, we're seeing it, teenagers in the school need to learn, that domestic violence is real, and that, they need to be able to reach out to someone and say, hey, this is going on. And it's so sad, she was a fellow cheerleader, so she didn't even know that this situation was going on. So I don't know if this was kept, some of this was
Mhm.
kept secret, which is the case a lot of times when someone is involved in domestic violence. You keep a lot of stuff to yourself, because there's a certain shame factor to it, and you should not be ashamed of it. And, you should be able to talk to someone and reach out
Mhm.
before it's too late.
Right. Um, how can programs help our youth? I mean, what are some things that can help, children as far as growing up in homes? Have you seen like maybe sports or other organized programs be beneficial?
Well, anytime that we can get the community involved in our children is absolutely essential. One of the programs that I'm involved in is Mentors of Montgomery, and I'll use it for an example.
Sure.
We take any children, boys or girls. Right now, we have men mentoring boys that are between the ages of 12 to 13, all the way through high school. And so they
Mhm.
get matched up with a young man gets matched up with a male mentor, and they stay with that same mentor all the way through high school till they graduate. So they're matched up, and they can talk to them, the school counselor, the school teacher. Some of them are single household parents. And let's face it, mom may be working, or dad, for that fact, may be working two jobs. So they got to put food on the table. I mean, it's just real life stuff here. So, they may be at home part of the time by themselves, or they may, need that extra support system. Maybe grandma and grandpa aren't available, or that extended family. So that mentor is where it comes in is key. They're a positive role model. They have clean background checks. So they can take them to go play basketball, or they can take them out to maybe go to a game or Six Flags, something that they may not be able to do financially because their family can't afford it.
Mhm.
But the mentors, have resources available to them to help them with these financial things, to help them gain experiences that they might not have been able to otherwise.
Right.
And so they meet at least once a month, but they have access to their mentor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they just keep in contact, make sure they're doing good, stay out of trouble.
Mhm.
Like I said, the teacher, if they see something going on in school, they can reach out to them if they can't reach their parents. And this is someone that is going to keep through and make sure that they graduate, whether they go into college, a trade school, a military. They're going to see that they are successful all the way through until they get into whatever
Mhm.
they're going to do as an adult.
That's awesome. What is your vision running for circuit judge?
So I want to see that families are put first, children are put first, and that the court docket moves along, that children and families aren't waiting this ridiculous amount of time to have their cases heard, that everything needs to be heard in a timely manner. And whenever these cases are put on hold, then this is a family that their life is put on hold. This child, this child's life is put on hold. They're put in limbo. So if it's a child that's in the foster care system, they're on limbo. They may be in a detention center, or in an institution, and they're stuck there in limbo while that case sits there. And that's just not right. These need to move quickly so that families can get resolution and they can move on. And we need to keep that moving as quickly as possible, because in the meantime, all these families are in turmoil, and that's not healthy.
Okay. So just so I understand you clearly, and those who watch and may not understand how the process works. So when there's cases of maybe families wanting to reunite with their children, you're saying that those cases are held up for months,
Years. Some of
years.
these are
Wow.
held up for years.
Wow. What about a family that can't necessarily afford a attorney? Are there resources available for them to try to do something?
There are, in the juvenile delinquency and in the dependency cases, you can get an attorney appointed to you. And then in the family law, you can ask for resources from the Volunteer Lawyers Association.
Okay. Now, your years as an attorney and also being a foster parent, what impact do you want to bring to the judicial system? Like, what impact do you think you can bring to it?
Well, I think that not only do you have to have the legal knowledge, but you need to have experience. You need to know where these families and children have been, where they're coming from, what they're living through. And so I think that makes all the difference, not just to sit there and say, I understand, because you can't understand unless you've been there and lived that. And I think that you have to have a deep compassion for what they're going through and understand. And you can't truly understand that unless you've been there through that.
Yeah. I know people get tired sometimes of the ad campaigns and just the whole news cycle, as the politics is in people's faces 24/7. But how important is our involvement in the political process?
Is very important, because family court, juvenile court, this is something that's going to could potentially touch everybody. Everybody's got a family, children, knows somebody who's ever been at least divorced or has a child that's gone through something. So this affects everybody. And so, or somebody that this affects. And you need somebody in the judicial system that's going to understand and truly understand the system, both from a personal and firsthand experience and from a legal experience, to know what to do.
Right.
And you can only do that by making sure you have the right people in there.
Yes. And how important is solidarity within our communities? I mean, I know there's so much stuff that goes on right now that has people divided left and right, but how important is unity?
Well, it all starts with children. So if we can't come together on what's best for our children and our youth, then they're our future.
Right.
And so I think putting together my desires, your desires, anyone, like I talked about when the two parents came in, and putting together their own selfish interests just long enough for the sake of the children,
Right.
and putting them first, then we have the true benefit and the true solidarity of our society.
Okay. Well, I do this in every part of the show. I just kind of throw a couple rapid fire questions at you. It gives the audience a chance to know a little bit more about you and your personality. What is your favorite food?
Chips and salsa.
Really? Chips and okay. And when you're not practicing law, and what's that?
Is that two foods?
Oh yeah. No.
That's one food. You got to eat it together.
Right. When you're not practicing law and you're reading books and studying cases, what do you like to do for fun?
volunteer.
Okay. You have a favorite TV show?
Flip This House.
Okay, yeah, my wife watches that constantly. So I see that all the time. You have a favorite actor and actress?
Jim Carrey.
Okay. Okay. Actress?
I don't know who that would be.
Okay. Favorite recording artist?
Pass.
Okay. Favorite place?
I listen to everything.
Everything? Okay. Okay. What are your favorite places to travel to?
Well, I want to go to Italy, like old world Italy, but I've never been. So that's not like traveled past
Okay.
tense. That's like future tense.
Right. Okay. Auburn or Alabama?
Easy one, Alabama.
Alabama. Oh, so I know you're disappointed in last weekend, right?
We're not going to talk about that one.
Hot or cold?
No. Hot.
Hot.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Who has inspired you?
My grandparents.
Okay. Okay. And what do you want your legacy to be?
That I've made a difference in the lives of children for the betterment, and I've made a chance to change their future so that they can have a better future.
That's awesome. Anyone that's interested in learning more about you or want to, link up with you as far as your services go, how can they reach you?
Well, my office is at montgomerydivorcelaw.com, but you can learn more about me at sabrinaforjudge.com.
Okay. All
Or
right.
just look me up on Facebook.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Sebrina, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the podcast today. Definitely being a friend of yours on Facebook. I definitely always see you out within the community. You're always at events and things like that. So that's my last question for you. What do you love about like going out and meeting new faces and just volunteering your time? Because it seems like you do this a lot.
The people. I love the people. I enjoy working with the people. I'm just
Yeah.
a people person. That's what I was like, hey, we do this in person.
Yeah. Right. Well, awesome. Well, I thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Stage is Mine podcast. We see you next time. Take care. I want to thank everybody for their support. Those of you that have been watching all of our podcasts. If you're interested in donating to the Stage is Mine podcast, you can send that two ways via PayPal or Cash App. Our Cash App is Terry from the A, and our PayPal is EETV101. Support this machine today to help us continue to do what we're doing. Also, if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the Stage is Mine podcast, email me today at EETV@yahoo.com or call 334-498-5394. Thank you very much. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's program. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell for all things pertaining to the Stage is Mine podcast. Until next time, take care.
Go for broke, give everything, better yet, give your all. They don't want to see you win, nevertheless, show evolve. Want to see my demise, you can be in for a surprise, cause the sun ain't about to set.